So today I'm going to walk you through Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. So first off, it's just an extension and another component of Office 365. So we can see here that inside Office 365, I can see all the apps that I have signed up for in the Microsoft Cloud, including Dynamics 365. So if I click over there, I now see all the various apps within Dynamics 365 that I'm using. So I see that I've subscribed to Business Central and some other applications across the product. I'm going to head into Business Central. And the first thing you'll notice when you log in is that you come to a page which we call the Role Center. Depending on your role within an organization, there are several role centers you could be assigned by your administrator. In this particular case, I'm looking at a fairly generalized role called the Business Manager. This is a role that sort of covers a good portion of the application for a typical small business. So I can see that I can deal with my finance, I can do my budgets, manage my fixed asset, do general journal entries, see my chart of account. I can also manage my cash flow and my cash across my bank accounts with my cash receipt journals and my payment journals. I have access to sales, so I can see my customers, do quotes, do invoicing, see my sales orders, purchasing, so I can manage my purchases with my vendors, do purchase quotes, purchase orders, manage my invoicing. I've got approvals. The system has built-in workflow, so I may have things I need to approve or continue within a workflow process. And then finally, under self-service, I can look at my user tasks or enter record time against projects. In the center of the screen, we have notifications. So the application is giving you automatically some notifications based on what you might be interested within your role. I can quickly take actions. So I can create sales quotes, purchase orders, some of the typical functions of the particular role. I've got a set of KPIs that are surfaced to me. So I can see, in this case, my sales this month, my overdue sales invoices, and I can always drill down and get more information on that. So here I see a list of my overdue sales invoices. Anything that's a problem is generally sitting in red, and I can always navigate further down into any of the documents that I'm viewing within those lists. And I can actually see here all of the journal entries that have been done in relation to this particular transaction, including navigating right down to the particular invoice that is overdue. So we've got a simple, easy way to drill down for more information directly from our role page on any of those particular KPIs. And here we see the original invoice and the details. You'll notice that some of the one of the KPIs is in green, so we can set our thresholds for what we consider okay, good, or starting to be trouble. So I can see here that I owe quite a bit of money to my vendors, and some of it is late. We've also got directly on the role page some relevant reports. I can see here my top 5 customers by sales value, and I can always drill in and get more information there as well. And we have embedded Power BI reports. So I can see here that I have a Power BI report that's surfaced directly within the application. I can navigate through the various reports that I have set up against my user. So for instance, I am now seeing my top 5 items sold by quantity. I can always expand that report if I need a bit deeper view. And when I expand that report, I can see here I actually have access to several reports related to customers, like the item sales dashboard. And I can always filter those. So if I'm interested in a particular item and I want to understand the quantity sold for that item, I can drill in and I can see that it makes up a good portion of the sales to this particular customer as an example. And I can actually change the date range that I want to look at for those items and see the data that way. So we give you great insight directly from those role pages. I also have the ability, any report in the system, to automatically schedule it to be sent out to individuals. So for instance, I may have a meeting every Friday on customer sales, and I may want to automatically send this report out an hour or two before the meeting. I can open it directly from here and see the details. And that works much like your email inbox. And when they're in bold, they haven't been read. When they appear like this, they've already been read. We work directly with the other applications in Office 365. So a good example is I have a series of Excel reports. So for instance, I can send my trial balance out to Excel. That's actually a live data link, so I can refresh that data at any time. And once I have the trial balance in Excel, I can actually build reports off of that directly inside of this Excel. So I could create a second sheet, build some reports across it, and we can see that we've got actually a live link here into just going to open that up a second time. I had 2 users logged in. So it does apply the security across the application. So I need to log in if I'm not already logged in, and it will automatically remove from the report any information that I don't necessarily have access to within the accounting system. I can always refresh that data here at any time, so I could build a series of reports based on this information and simply refresh each month if I wanted to update it. Even more than that, when I take a look at, for instance, something like items, I have here my item list. Again, I can see that I'm getting some information from Power BI on those particular items, but I also have the ability to send that to Excel and edit it directly there. So things like customers, items, and vendors, we make it easy to keep that information up to date, to modify that information, to update it in a mass way based on using Excel. And then finally, what I showed you there was the business manager role, but there are a set of other roles across the application. So there's a specific role for the accountant, for the sales and relationship manager, for the sales order processor, for the project manager, for the production planner. We'll just quickly take a look at another role. In this case, I'm heading into the accountant role. And we can see that the layout's fairly similar, and the functionality and the navigation is the same, but the information presented is significantly different for the accountant in the business. So my actions have changed. I'm getting different messaging up top. I've got different KPIs across the application. And I have potentially different Power BI reports. Basic reports on the system are different. So here I've got my financial performance, and I've got an example here of a cash flow report. So I can see where my cash flow is heading in the future based on what's in the system today. So one of the things we've strived hard to do within Business Central is make it easier to process your transactions and do and gain insights. So as an example here, I can see I have an unprocessed payment. Let's take a look at that. This is actually a vendor who sent an email. Oops. Sorry. I've got some incoming documents here. So this is actually an email address. A vendor sent me an email with a PDF invoice. So I've got this invoice that came into my incoming documents automatically. We can automate all the steps I'm about to show you, and there's built-in workflow for that, but I just wanted to walk through it. So the first thing that happens when we get a PDF invoice is it gets sent out to an OCR service. It's going to actually scan that document for us, parse out the data, and make that data meaningful. So in a minute or two here, I can receive the information back. So I can see I've received the information. This is what it's actually done in the background, is it's pulled all this information directly from the PDF invoice. And then I can actually go ahead and create my invoice. Again, this can be done, all these steps can be automated. And now I have a completed purchase invoice that's been keyed into the system with all the information without the need to actually key any of that in. So it's an example of one of the ways that we try and increase users' productivity in the application and make it simple to use. Another area where we think we've really made it easy to use is within Outlook. So I've got a good example here. You know, most people typically start their day in Outlook. I see here that I've got an email saying, you know, I need some new office furniture, and can you quote me these items? So I can click on Insight within Outlook, and it'll pull up some information directly from Business Central. So if it recognizes that email address and it's attached to a customer, it's going to pull up some information for me on what's happening with that customer in my accounting system. If it doesn't recognize the customer, it'll simply ask you if you want to add it as a contact and attach it to a particular customer in the system. The same is true for vendors, by the way. If it recognizes a vendor, it'll actually do the same and pull up some information on that vendor. So I get a lot of insight directly in Outlook on what's happening with this particular customer. So I can see they owe us some money and some of it's past due. I can always drill down and get more information. So I can see this invoice is the one that's late because it's in red. I can drill further and I can actually see the details of the invoice directly here. I could even send out a reminder directly from here to the customer. I've also got some information here. In this particular case, I'm using another app from Dynamics 365, the Dynamics 365 Sales. And I can see here that there's actually an opportunity, a couple of opportunities open in our CRM system. I can drill into those and take a look. And I can actually from here drill directly into the CRM system and take a look at those opportunities. But finally, in this particular case, what the customer is actually asking for is they want a quote. So I want to go ahead and make that quote, and I can do that directly from here. I'll say I want to create a new sales quote. And one of the first things it does is it's actually using AI and to read the body of that particular email. So the first two items, it knew with certainty what items those are within my system, and it's picked that up for me and the quantities. The last one, the person typed blue chair. When I go to resolve item, I see here that there's actually two items that have that are blue and are chairs. So it's asking me to actually pick the correct item. I can go ahead and do that. And I now have my quotation complete with all the pricing, the items, and the quantities. And I didn't actually have to key in anything. Now I can go ahead and send that to them as an email. So he wanted a quote. I was able to quickly generate that quote directly in Outlook. It's now automatically filled in some information for that customer. These are simply Word templates. So as a user, it's extremely easy to modify these. You just do it inside Word if you want to change what's included in the body of the email or in the actual quote, which I can open up and take a look at. Again, this is just a Word template. So I can go ahead and send that. I'm just going to tell that to send right away. And I'm going to head into my customer's email. So there I can see the customer got the email. So here's the email with the quote. I can look at those details, and I'm going to go ahead and reply and say, great, please proceed with the order, and send that out. What will happen over here when we get that there we go. So the customer's told me to go ahead and proceed with the order. It actually recognizes this anywhere in the body of that email, and it knows which document it's related to. So I can simply click into it. And I can see I'm now opening up the system and looking at that quote directly. I've got all the details of the quote. If they had asked maybe for an extra chair, I can change the quantities, make any changes I need to. And then I can go ahead and make it an order directly from here. You'll notice that I've got a notification here. So we have smart notifications throughout the application. Things like maybe they're over their credit limit, or maybe you've got an inventory shortage. The system will surface those smart notifications throughout the applications, and we can actually create our own rules for some of those smart notifications. I can go down and see the details. So I see here, that I've only got one available, and I'm going to have a problem on inventory. And I could even drill in here if I had multiple warehouses and take a look at how much I have in my different warehouses. So I'll go ahead and close that. Now that I've created that order, I can again go out and quickly email confirmation to that particular customer. And here's the details again. So we make it very easy to work within the application where a typical customer does their work. And when you think about the finance department, having to issue credits and things like that, you can do that directly from Outlook as well. We also have, besides the web client you've been looking at, we also have made it easy for customers to use the application on their mobile devices. So you can find this application on your Android, on your iOS, in your Windows. You can search the relevant stores for Dynamics 365 Business Central, and you'll find the application. I'm on a Surface today, so right now this looks exactly like the web client essentially. But if I go ahead and I change into tablet mode on my Surface, it's going to recognize that I'm now on a mobile touch device, and it's going to change the GUI interface to be optimized for touch. But all of the functionality that we had previously seen is available on the app. So you can actually run your whole business from an app or from a mobile phone. So we have the same KPIs, we've got the same reporting, we've even got the Power BI reports surfaced here. We can access the different areas of the application, and we have access to the buttons and the action items we're used to here on the top. So it's a very modern experience. It's designed for the cloud, and it's designed for mobility. Now, when we think of intelligence, we've embedded a great deal of intelligence directly into the application. So a couple quick examples. When we look at something like our items, I can see, some information as we saw earlier in Power BI in terms of demand for a particular item. I'm going to search for one particular item here. So my 1906, I can see here, the total quantity sold over the period, the total quantity purchased. I can see the variability across that. But further down here, I've actually got a forecast. And that forecast is generated by Cortana Analytics. So essentially using machine learning to take a look at the history of the sales across the periods for a particular item and helping us forecast our requirements. But more than just providing the insight, we want to make it easy to action that. So I have an option here to create a purchase order. So I'm going to go ahead and create a purchase order because I can see that shortly I'm going to start to have some trouble and I'm going to run out of that particular item. So it's purchasing a quantity to cover the next 60 days because that's what I've told it to do in this particular case when I set it up. And then I also have another one of the smart notifications. So it says, you're going to run out of stock on items that this vendor usually supplies. So not only is it helping me decide what I need to purchase, create quickly and easily a purchase order for that particular item, but it's telling me if you're going to send a purchase order out, you might as well look at what else you might need from that vendor. And I have an option here to add it to the document. And we can see here that it's filled out another set of items that based on the forecast, based on the demand, it's predicting that we will need to purchase shortly. Other examples might include, I'm going to search here. So I have a search box within the application. I can really search for anything I'm looking for within the application. So for example, I could say I'm interested in inventory. And what I'm going to see here is anywhere in the application that relates to inventory. And these different icons represent different things. So there's a whole series of reports here. There's some setup. There's some transaction screens. I can filter that a little better here if I want to look across it this particular way. But what I want to look at the moment is contacts. So I'm actually going to go ahead and create a new contact here. I'll create myself in the system. And I have a picture I grabbed from LinkedIn of this particular contact. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that picture. And here again is another example of using intelligence. It's actually going to scan that picture here. Well, it's not going to do that at the moment, unfortunately. So I'm actually I was going to head over here later, but I'm going to head over to assisted setup. And this is an area that makes it easy for customers to get started. When you first create, right now we're looking at the demo area of the application, the demo company that comes with the application. But once you've tried it, you decide you're interested in using it, you can create a new company. And when you do that, it's going to take you through a wizard, much like some of these wizards I'm going to talk to here. And it'll create that company, put in a chart of account, do the default setup, so you're ready to get started and work easily. Some of the examples include setting up cash flow forecasting, creating approvals, setting up that business inbox in Outlook, how we did those transactions in Outlook. And then we can also set up things like workflows. So I'm just going to quickly click on this. I want to set up an item, a workflow on an item. So here I can select a user that's going to approve that. And then I'm going to say here that the workflow starts automatically when somebody changes a specific field. I can go in here and I can say, I can look at all the fields in the item. So maybe we have a rule from marketing that if the description is changed on a product, they want to approve it. Maybe from sales, if somebody tries to change the price, they want an approval on that. So in this case, we're going to use the price, and we can see here the text that's going to go out to the user when they change that particular price. And that's it. I'm finished. Now, when a user tries to change a price, the price won't actually change. It'll send on the role page of the person who's the designated approval a notification that they've got some workflows that they need to approve. So here it would show up as a request to approve. they can approve or reject that change, and then the change is made within the system. So we make it fairly easy to create and manage the different workflows across the application. We also make it easy to start. So when you actually first log in, the first time you log in, a user will see this screen. So the first user from a company that signs up will see this screen. So there's some videos, introductions. There's a set of get started resources. And you can also explore those different roles I talked about. So when I go into the get started resources, it's going to quickly walk me through a video that's going to help me understand the general navigation and use of the system and how to create a company. We've also got links to a set of product videos. So under Get Starting, there's an introduction, there's additional resources, there's stuff for setting up your taxes, there's different tools across. And we've got guided tours where they can actually ask the application to walk them through the system. We've also got the ability to personalize the application. So you may want to make some simple changes. You may want to move some fields around. You may want to remove some fields or add some fields. So I can always start up personalization. And here I can do things like move sections on my role page, hide things, move things around. As I navigate into the system a bit more, let's take a look at something like my items. Here I could decide that I want to change the order of fields. So I can simply click here. I could move a particular field. I can also change the freeze pane. So maybe I want a freeze pane, much like you're used to in Excel, to be here, so that as I scroll right to left, I always keep the number and the description. Or I could actually take some fields that may not already be in that particular view, and I can go ahead and simply drag and drop and add them to the screen. And when I'm done, I simply hit done. Now this is actually an individual personalization for me as a user. I can also, using the sandbox, customize the application. And the main difference being there is that I'm creating a customization that I will then deploy to the live environment. And when I do a customization, I deploy it to the live environment, those changes that I make will apply to all users within the organization. So when I'm in the sandbox, I have an extra option here called Designer. And it's exactly the same set of functionality. The difference is I'm creating a package that I can then deploy to the live environment that affects all users. And there are really no limitations to what you can customize inside the application. These simple changes you can do with the designer here just graphically, but you can also use VS Code and customize anything you want within the application. So I think it's really the first cloud-based application that allows you to do any customizations that you want against the application. You obviously have to have the knowledge to do that, and your partners can help you there as well. When I stop here, I've completed that particular change. And then finally, as your usage grows within the system over time, you may be interested to see if there's any apps that have been built that might be useful to you. So we have something here called App Source at Microsoft. You can go into App Source, look at Dynamics 365 and Business Central, and see a whole series of applications that easily in a couple of clicks can be deployed to your Business Central instance. So for example, if you're looking for payroll, there's a great Canadian payroll system. You can hit Get It Now. It'll deploy it into your solution. Some of these are free trials, some of these are free, but typically most of them let you at least try it out before you decide to purchase. Somebody had asked earlier about data migration. Here's an example. There's one for QuickBooks. So if customers are using QuickBooks, we make it easy for them to move across. There's a whole set of different applications here. If you're in the US, the taxes in the US are extremely complicated. There's a great application that keeps the taxes up to date across all the different jurisdictions. You've got credit card processing. You've got applications that help you with your shipping, your payments, so WorldPay payments from Microsoft. You can connect to that. We talked about the GP data migration. There's tools in here to work with Canada Post. If you're using Canada Post as your shipping solution, there's an app that allows you to connect automatically across that. So that was just a quick overview of Business Central. Thanks for your time.